going on in the atmosphere. We're going to start you off where we've seen the heavy rain over the last 24 hours, really the last few days, is into Missouri, and it is now pushed into the south. There were multiple reports of some wind damage with trees. We have flooding. That's the house with that little wavy mark. And notice heavy rainfall as well into Missouri and on into Illinois. So some of the reports we're getting: snapped and uprooted trees, significant damage to a house and barn there in Abrams, Alabama. And that's only some of the damage. The flooding has caused a lot of issues. Columbia, Missouri, yesterday's daily rainfall record, 3.77 inches. And a lot of this happening before 6 a.m. in the morning. 3.74 fell before 8 a.m. And look at the previous record. Was 2.31, so we blew away this record that's been standing since 1910. So that tells you how rare it is to get downpours like this. There are still flood advisories from Missouri stretching all the way down into Alabama, including Tennessee, Kentucky, and Illinois. There's the stretch of rain over the past 24 hours, and you can see those deeper red shadings here. We're talking 5, maybe 8+ inches of rain for some of us. If we go back over the last 72 hours, we saw over a foot reported in some spots. But it's that eastern Missouri that's been getting hit hard and will continue to get hit hard as well. With that said, there is the slight chance that we could see some flooding. I think a lot of this will be very localized if you see some of those heavier downpours in some of those bigger thunderstorms. So those will extend in the same area where we have that potential for flooding. It essentially just overlaps the area. You can see the moisture that we have, and I'm going to show you later. Some of this moisture is actually originating all the way from the Pacific, riding up and over, coming down into Missouri. At the surface, we have a high to our south, so that's pumping up some moisture as well. So if you look at all the different layers of the atmosphere, we're really getting fed tons of juice for us here, and that's why you see those deep green shadings showing up on our water vapor imagery at the end of this, just these explosive thunderstorms. And there's energy too that's also riding along this jet that's bringing in the moisture from the Pacific, and we have surface boundaries still in place. So everything is lining up to be right in the same area. Again, we already have multiple flash flood warnings. This is going to get worse as we head through the day. St. Clair, you have a flash flood warning. That's the county of St. Clair, I should say. And as we go up into Missouri, we have very heavy rainfall over the past 12 hours from Missouri down towards Tennessee. You're talking 5 to 8 inches of rain for some of us in just 12 hours. So you're doubling, maybe even tripling some of your monthly rainfall totals with what you're getting out of this. So watch how everything, again, just slides right down. It's because the pattern's not changing. That's why you get it over and over and over again. I'm going to show you that pattern coming up in just a minute, but we just wanted to get out this information, this life-saving information for you, and you want to turn around, don't drown, don't go through any of those flooded roadways as that energy in the atmosphere continues to pop everything off as we head into tomorrow morning as well. So there's really no rest for the weary here, Jordan, as everything just keeps riding along this one area. And this says, you know, up to 1 inch for a lot of areas. But, of course, in those heavier downpours, we will see flooding and much heavier rain as well.
Yep, and the very heavy
head and hail. So 1 inch, this is considered severe in Denver. This is golf ball size hail. We saw that also into Whitney. Notice 99-mile-an-hour wind gusts, Moab 60. And we did see them range from 60 to 90. And of course, elevation is going to make a difference on those winds as well. Here's a look at our water vapor imagery. And we do have a piece of energy in this area. OK, if you look around 700 millibars, if we go up in the atmosphere. So we do have a little energy there. That's playing a role in getting some of these storms. That's the instability. But we're also seeing our jet come off the Pacific and deliver moisture into this area. And this is one of the reasons why there is a pretty good chance of some heavier rain and some flooding there, because we are just getting this moisture streaming into the jet. And also notice how the jet drops down, and this is why we're seeing all those storms in St. Louis. Remember I was telling you I was going to show you the pattern? So this shows everything, because it shows you the jet and also the energy we have in the atmosphere right in this area. So today, by the way, that jet will continue to bring that threat for severe weather too. That plays a role in that as well. Nebraska, as we head down into Colorado, and then you have the surface features on top of it. So you have to look at every layer to see what's going on in the atmosphere to determine where you're going to see those storms. So this is a boundary here that we're watching the storms kind of drop down into the south. This is our surface boundary that is going to help play a role in the severe weather popping up and that heavy rainfall for us. Heavier rain moving through the state of Kansas right now. We need it. We're pretty dry, so we will certainly take it. But that will be a batch of energy that we're going to follow through the morning hours. You see it kind of dissipates. And then we really focus up here. You can see that counterclockwise spin in the northern tier, and that's where you're going to see some of those stronger storms and that flooding as well. And we will see the tail end of that develop as we head into Nebraska, and it continues to stick around, Jordan, for our Saturday forecast. But that rain is legit.
The million-dollar question.
The road is there. So let's talk about our severe weather threat, because the same system causing the potential for severe weather today and flooding into the northern plains is going to help cause the potential for severe weather tomorrow here into the central plains. And then it's going to move into the Midwest for Sunday. And then on Monday, it's going to move into the Northeast. So that's the progression of the same system going across the country. There's abundant moisture in place. We were talking about that off the top of the show. Coming in from the Pacific with the jet, high pressure to the south is also pumping in some moisture. And there's your disturbance. This is the one that I was trying to articulate to you a little bit earlier. We can't show you everything at once, right? We got to pace it out through the show. So this piece of energy is going to be tracking east. So as we head into tomorrow, as we head into Sunday and Monday, and notice also there's going to be a lot of wind with this. You see these tightly packed isobars. So the closer these lines are together, the breezier it is. So we haven't had a system like this all summer yet. Not very summer-like either. Tomorrow, Sioux Falls down into Wichita, Dodge City, and as we go through the day, we are going to see storms tap into some of that daytime heating as well. So that will help pump things out, make them a little bit stronger. Look at for our Saturday afternoon, we see the storms into the Dakotas, moving into Iowa, and then this is all going to be progressing east. And you can see that in the models that we start to clear out here into western portions of South Dakota. We see more storms into our Sunday, Chicago, Fort Wayne, Bowling Green, Nashville. This could disrupt flights. The same into our Monday here into the Northeast. So let's play it all out as we go through our Saturday. It's going to be messy, especially as we head into our Sunday afternoon around the Great Lakes, especially the western lakes. Minneapolis, Chicago, you get it into Sunday. Even Monday, we'll feel the lingering effects here around the Great Lakes, but then we're going to start to see some of that into the Northeast with those gustier winds. That low then will be pulling out. Overall, we're going to see an inch, maybe 2 or 3, Kelly, in some spots, but we need it right here. We're pretty dry, so we'll take it there.
We will. All right.
Welcome back to America's Morning Headquarters. It is Friday, August 4th. It's the weekend. Unfortunately, it was kicking off to a soggy start. Look at this time-lapse footage capturing, oh my gosh, this is over Macon, Georgia, unloading about a half inch of rain, winds gusting over 40 miles an hour yesterday, and we could see more storms today. Look at that shelf too. Can you see that shelf cloud right when they started off? This is where I need the ladder to climb up so I can point out exactly where the shelf is, but right there, that like kind of ring around the thunderstorm is your shelf cloud. We could see more just like this today, so get those cameras ready. Jordan, unfortunately, some of these could come with severe weather. 40-mile-an-hour winds, that's not at the severe limits, but certainly that can cause some damage.
Oh, of course. And we had some...
The Humane Society of the United States plays a role, a huge role, I should say, in rescuing furry family members after natural disasters. It utilizes some unique equipment to save the lives of animals in extreme weather. And the Weather Channel got an exclusive tour of its warehouse. Thank you to the Humane Society of the United States for allowing us access to their warehouse and operations. And remember, don't ever self-deploy in an animal rescue operation. You're putting yourself, animals, and first responders at risk. The good news is we don't have any huge, tropical entities that we have to worry about here in the Atlantic. You can see a couple waves coming across what we call the MDR here, the main development region in between essentially the Caribbean and Africa. We do have a couple areas of interest, though, as you can see here, into the East Pac. That's where we have 2 systems that we are following, but those are going to be heading westbound out into sea. These are little, disturbances that can turn into something if the conditions are right, but we don't have those. We have a little bit of Saharan dust that is coming over these areas, and you can watch them as there's one, there's another one. We call these waves because they're basically stretched out areas of low pressure. That one kind of disappears. This one kind of tries to make something happen, but it just doesn't look like anything's really going to come of that. This is the area that we start to look for activity, or really the origins of development, in August, but you can get them close to home too. So you don't just focus out in the Atlantic where our water temperatures are at record levels. It is unreal what the water temperatures are at there. And if we look at tropical cyclone activity by month, August can be active, but things really ramp up typically for us as we head into September. Here's a look at the Atlantic activity. We're only, 10% through. We still have 90% of the season remaining for us. So we have a ways to go for us. And we just got a new outlook recently here from Colorado, and essentially still going above average. Our average is 14, and you can see all the numbers across the board for total named storms, hurricanes, and Cat 3 or higher are up there because, frankly, we've already had our first name system. Jordan, we've already gone through D, A, B, C, D, our fourth name. We've already had our first hurricane.
That's right. Next up, Emily.
In Florida, and show you how we are shaping up. It's been hot, it's been rainy, its path of everything went from essentially Missouri and Illinois and then just dropped down right into Alabama, Georgia, and portions of Tennessee. We had flooding, we had wind damage, there was significant damage to a house and a barn in Arab and Crudup, multiple trees uprooted and snapped there on Tabor Road, trees on homes and vehicles, and tents for an outdoor event. And those are some of the worst things that you can have when you have situations like this, because those tents can get picked up so easily. Columbia, Missouri, yesterday, daily rainfall record of 3.77 inches. Literally almost all of that fell before 8 a.m. So midnight to 8 a.m., you got a month's worth of rainfall, and it blew away the old record from 1910, showing that this doesn't happen very often if that record was standing for so long. Flood advisories stretch from Missouri all the way down into Alabama for this morning, and we have multiple flood warnings within that. And this is already saturated ground, more rain on top of that, very heavy rainfall rates. That's why we have that flood threat. Over the last 24 hours, we saw 8+ inches of rain in some places. In the last 72 hours, we've seen 12+ inches of rain for some. So through tomorrow morning, flooding is certainly a possibility for us here, and thunderstorms right in that same path as well. And we can show you that there's a lot of convection already firing up this morning, a lot of moisture in the atmosphere too. We're getting this from the Pacific, we're getting it from the Gulf. So there's a lot of different angles to this and a lot of different energies in the atmosphere. Notice where we have all of that moisture, the precipitable water, so the deeper oranges, that shows we have a lot of moisture. We have flash flood warnings going on here, and everything's riding along our boundary and going with the flow of the wind. And we have numerous flash flood warnings for you here. New ones to talk about, Fredericktown all the way into 12 Mile. We have flash warnings down towards really portions of Kentucky, Illinois, and down into Tennessee. We're really getting hit hard, and Alabama is getting hit hard too. One of the other problems is the storms are going right over the same area. So you get hit with heavy rain, then you get it again. Look at Martin, Tennessee. Caught that out of the corner of my eye. Did you see that lightning that was popping off there? That's the other thing. You've got lightning you have to worry about and some gusty winds within these cells as well. So just in the past 12 hours, we have seen up to maybe 5 inches of rain or more in some spots, and that is certainly going to cause some flood issues. And this is all just going to continue on this same path through the day today into tomorrow, because not much changes with our pattern. So more clusters of storms are going to come on the areas that have been saturated, especially Missouri. For the last several days, we've gotten so much rain into eastern Missouri, and we will get more of it. Watch as we head into our Saturday. Not much is going to change. You see everything pop up, goes through Tennessee, down into Alabama, and then all the way down into Florida. Jordan.
Well, we know the Northeast.
Golf ball size hail, which is 1 3/4, you are going to see the potential for some dents. And we had that golf ball size hail in a couple locations here in Kersey and also into Whitney. Wind 60. Look at Buxton, lower S. I wonder what that elevation is to get that 99-mile-per-hour wind. I'm guessing there's a little elevation to that. I'm going to have to look that one up. But otherwise, there was a lot of rain, a lot of wind reports for us. And it's all thanks to the same pattern that we've been seeing in the same system. We have energy here in the atmosphere, and that's going to help kick off some of the severe weather and some of the storms and some of the heavy rain. But you need moisture in order to get rain. Where are we getting our moisture from? We have a plume coming from the Pacific, tossing moisture here. There's also a little jet energy coming from the north as well, and a little piece of energy north of that. So there's just a lot of energy in the atmosphere. And by the way, notice where it goes. This dips down. Yes, that storm track brings everything down here into portions of Missouri. So today, watch it from Nebraska down into Kansas. And we were just showing you the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. At the surface, we also have boundaries. This is this stalled boundary we've been watching bringing the rain into Missouri. Well, we have one that actually is going to be on the move, this piece of energy, as we head over time. Tonight, though, you can see that counterclockwise spin that's going to bring the storms. Plenty of moisture for us, as we were talking about, so our dew point temperatures are up there. We have storms moving through Kansas. Those will start to dissipate. And then this is where things really start to get rocking and rolling as we head throughout the day. So here's your one piece of energy that will start to fall apart. And then there's your next piece of energy. Julie, can you pull that down a little bit so we can see that a little bit better? I don't know if you can do it actually while we're in the segment or not. But that is where we're going to see the biggest threat for those storms and for the rain. And then this is actually what's going to cause havoc for us, wreak havoc for us, all the way through our Monday, that piece of energy. So that's going to continue to rotate through our Saturday. And we will see heavier rain for us into Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota. That's where we have our highest chances of rain for us today, because all that moisture is getting tossed in from the Pacific. Real quick before we get to Jordan, look into Nebraska and Kansas. The storms continue into the evening hours, so keep that in mind as you're heading to bed. Jordan.
Steph, sorry.
Busy couple of days and mornings as we head not only through today, but tomorrow into our Sunday, even into our Monday. You can see the path that our storms are going to be taking. It's really one ball of energy that is starting today. But right in here, you can see all that energy coming around, and you see that counterclockwise spin. So there's your ball of energy, and that is going to be swinging east and kicking off all that severe weather that I just showed you. So where is it today? There's our disturbance, and it is going to be riding eastbound. We made the pretty low pressure and go through the Great Lakes early into next week. Sundays, we head into our Monday. And notice these white lines. These are isobars. These are lines of constant pressure. So the pressure is the same all the way on this one, and then you have the same pressure on this one, and these are separated by 4 millibars. Anyhow, back to the map. What this all means is you're going to have windy conditions in the Great Lakes. So there are storms tomorrow, Sioux Falls down to Wichita. As everything shifts east, we can show you how they develop. This is Saturday morning, tomorrow early morning. And of course, we'll tap into some of that afternoon energy that comes in, and we'll see some more boisterous storms popping up for us. And they last as we head into the evening hours. We don't totally lose them. Then Sunday, Milwaukee, Detroit, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, all the way down actually into portions of Tennessee. You have the threat for some stronger storms to develop, and then it pushes east on Monday. This isn't really kind of like a summertime low, I feel like. This is more of a spring or a wintertime looking thing, right? To see this nicely tight and wound up low. But it's been a weird summer so far. And as we go into our Monday morning, look at that wind stretching really from almost the plains onto the Atlantic coast. So it's going to be a little breezy out there. It starts to pull out, and in its weight, Kelly, 2 to 3 inches for some that need it. It's pretty dry up here, especially in Minnesota.
Yeah, lawns need a good.
Welcome back to America's Morning Headquarters. It's Friday, August 4th, and the work week is coming to a stormy end in the Great Plains. Nature putting on a light show in Nebraska late Thursday evening. It was pretty intense, popping off through the clouds. And Shadron thunderstorms unleashing a triple threat of heavy rain, hail, and damaging winds. 44 miles an hour. You want to keep the umbrellas handy, though, because we have the possibility of another round of storms. Not a whole lot is changing. So where you've gotten the storms, you're probably going to get them again. Where you've gotten the flooding, you're probably going to get it again. And Jordan's going to take us through that, starting with the severe in the south.
Yeah, and we're still kind of working through our maps, trying to build
tropics here, because it is definitely nowhere near as active as we're seeing in the lower 48. We do have a couple waves that we're following here through the MDR, and a couple pieces of energy, and one hurricane actually here off the coast of Mexico. But for us here in the lower 48, we do see these waves that have been coming off of Africa, still intertwined with some of that dust. Usually that really puts a kibosh on them. Here's one wave, here's another wave, and as it goes through time, you'll see that first wave brings some unsettled weather there to the Antilles. And you can see all these little pieces of energy. Here's that second one trying to make something out of itself, but it's really just too open. We don't see it nice and tightly wound up. That would make it a storm. This is where we look this time of year for storms to develop. And notice that we still have 90% of the season, so there's a long way to go. August is active. September is even more active. That's usually the busiest time. And we got newly released information from CSU, Colorado State University. And notice above average for total names, for hurricanes, for Category 3. And speaking of Category 3, we've got one here in the East Pack, and its name is Category 4, I should say, Hurricane Dora. Breaking news, we have two flash flood emergencies we need to tell you about here. One of them is in Kentucky, in Fulton, Kentucky. The other one in Obion County, Tennessee, and Weakley, Tennessee. And in Obion County, Tennessee, school has canceled classes due to the flash flooding. And when you have a flash flood emergency, that means it's a very serious situation going on. We have multiple flash flood warnings that you see in green here. But as we get a little bit closer here into Tennessee and Kentucky, that's where you see the purple. And this is where we have flash flood warnings. We have seen incredible rainfall, more that's coming down. Rivers, Sharon, Union City, you're in this flash flood emergency until 9 a.m. And as we look towards Kentucky, Hickman, you are under a flash flood warning as well. So how much have we seen? Well, in Hickman, widespread reports occurring here of flash flooding. Roads are closed. At least one home has been evacuated due to this flooding. There are reports of 11, nearly 12 inches of rain that have fallen here just south of Union City. So what's the difference between a flash flood warning, which we talk about more on the regular, versus a flash flood emergency, which we're seeing right now? Well, a warning means that dangerous flooding is happening or will happen soon. You have some roads that are flooded. Homes and businesses may flood. A warning is an exceedingly rare situation. You can see catastrophic damage from flash flooding that's happening or will happen, and a severe threat to human life. And I was reading what the National Weather Service was putting out with this advisory, and they said basically because we've had so much rain and some of those roads are blocked, they upped this to a flash flood emergency because they knew people would be getting out on the roads this morning. If there's a warning, you want to move to higher ground. Never drive through flooded roadways. Turn around, don't drown. If there's an emergency, it is a life-threatening situation, so do not travel unless you're fleeing an area subject to flooding or under an evacuation order. So you see it's ramped up a little bit more when you have that flash flood warning. And not only have we had 11, nearly 12 inches of rain, it is still raining. That's the problem. Notice that everything is going from the north to the south. So these areas that not only have the flash flood emergency, but the flash flood warnings, we have a lot more rain that's coming down. So we are really just getting started with this. As we head over the next several hours, I wouldn't be surprised if we had more of these types of warnings come out. Other spots that are seeing the flash floodings in Alabama, east of Birmingham, we've been getting hammered for the last several hours here, and there's more rain. Remember, everything that we just showed you in Missouri is headed right down in this direction. In the past 6 hours, we've seen 5+ inches of rain. That means that there's water rescues going on here in Oneonta, and also we have roads with 6 inches of flowing water. And remember, 6 inches of swiftly moving water can knock you off your feet. And if you have 2 feet of swiftly moving water, Jordan, that can move a car.
Oh, easily. There's a lot of people
for us, and we do have flash flood warnings still for Fulton County, Kentucky, and also Obion, Tennessee, and Weakley, Tennessee. And in Obion County, Tennessee, schools have canceled classes due to the flash flooding that we have. So you see we have multiple boxes of green. Those are flash flood warnings. That means flash flooding is imminent or it's occurring. But when you see the purple box, which is an indication of a flash flood emergency, there they are for you right on the border of Tennessee and Kentucky. This is where we have the significant for life-threatening flash flooding. This is one up from a flash flood warning, and there are the cities Reeves, Sharon, Union City, and the rainfall totals have been tremendous. The other issue is that it's rained, and there's a lot more rain that's coming down from north to south to pour right over these areas for you as we head over the next several hours. We already have reports of flash flooding here into Hickman, numerous roads closed. One home has been evacuated. Union City, a train spotter here measuring nearly 11.5 inches of rain. Since Thursday, evacuations taking place at the nearby Green Acres Mobile Home Park. Numerous roads closed in this area. And the National Weather Service, I was reading what they were putting out, and they basically were saying since people are going to be getting out of the house, they know a lot of people are going to be driving, maybe not necessarily aware of all the rain that has been coming down, that we need to put out that flash flood emergency for us. So over the past 24 hours, you were talking about 8, maybe 12 inches of rain in some of these areas in and around Union City. And when we have a flash flood emergency, that means that emergency managers declare a state of emergency, and that basically just cuts the red tape so you can get supplies flowing and people moving. Locations normally safe during flash floods experience life-threatening situations, and then you have those swift water rescues. And the problem is that not only are we seeing the rain right now, we've been seeing it as a flash flooding. Look at all the rain to the north. This is what I'm concerned about. Is this moisture is going to continue to pour right into these areas that are already suffering and having trouble as it is. But it's not just there into Tennessee and Kentucky, Alabama. Also seeing some flash flood warnings. This area has been getting hit hard the last couple days as well. The rain has moved into Birmingham, but from 65 down to 20, that is where we've seen the worst of the rain on the east side of town, anywhere from 5+ inches of rain in just the past 6 hours. So you're getting a month's worth of rain in just a matter of hours. And what does that cause? That causes roads to have 6 inches of water flowing on it. Water rescues going on here on portions of Alabama Highway 75. So it's a very serious situation out there. If you know anyone that lives in this area, give them the heads up. You want to turn around, don't drown, because it doesn't take a lot. 6 inches of swiftly moving water can knock you off your feet. 2 feet can float a car. It's shocking how little water you need. Flooded watches extend all the way down into Alabama today. This is where we'll also see the possibility of some stronger thunderstorms. Our water vapor imagery shows we have moisture from the surface all the way up into the atmosphere. That's what all this green is, and those are those thunderstorms firing off. And notice, underneath the radar, you can kind of see the yellow and the orange. That's just showing you that it is a super juicy atmosphere, and there's a boundary here that's going to help squeeze out all of this rain. And that's what's going to continue as we head throughout the day. Watch it all just dive south as we head through the morning hours. So there's a lot more rain for us here into Kentucky and Tennessee, still ongoing as we head towards the lunch hour. We finally dry out. This goes down into the I-10, I-20 corridor. But notice as we head into our Friday and Saturday, more rain's going to come in. And guess what? It's going to continue to dive south. As we look a quick look here at our forecast, there you go. More showers right in this vicinity here along the Mississippi River and then down into the southeast. But Jordan, this isn't the only place dealing with heavy rain.
Yeah, we had some big rain.
Center of the country here and back towards the mountains, we do have a lot of storm reports to show you. This is hail. This is golf ball size hail. That can definitely cause some dings. This at 7,000 feet. Thank you, Jillian, for looking at that. 99-mile-an-hour winds, but you're up at 7,000 feet. Keep that in mind. Closer to the ground, we're seeing those winds 60 to near 70 miles an hour for us. But hail, wind, rain, a lot of those reports, and we could see more of it. We do have an area of low pressure here into the northern plains back towards Montana, but that's not the only piece of energy that's helping give us a threat for not only severe weather, but flooding rain. You see the jet stream is pulling that moisture from the Pacific and shooting it right up into portions of the Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming. So you have the combination of the jet bringing the moisture. We also have that low pressure that's kicking things off. And then you have what's going on at the surface that's also going to help cause some of these storms. So anywhere from Valentine into eastern Colorado, you'll see the nasty weather today. This is our low pressure that's going to be the weather maker for the next several days. So keep that in mind, that this energy is going to be moving east. But this afternoon into tonight, you see that counterclockwise flow, and look at the storms in the warm sector that are firing up for us, and they are going to be quite intense. The moisture, plenty of it. We were showing you that stream coming off the Pacific, and we have our dew point temperatures in the 60s. This batch of rain going over areas that really need it. It's super dry for us here, but this is what we want. No thunderstorms, just some light rain glazing over, but that's not what we're going to get with all the energy that's pouring into the northern piece of this system. So there is the Kansas stuff kind of peters out, but this gets active, and you can see that counterclockwise spin. And later in the show, I'll show you how all of this is going to affect our weather all the way into the northeast by next week. But Jordan, look at these boomers right down the plains.
That's a drop south
there, Jordan. And then we've got to talk about our next storm that today is going to be in the northern plains, also in Nebraska, Montana, Wyoming. Tomorrow, it shifts down towards Kansas, Iowa, and then Sunday and Monday, it's going to make its way through the Great Lakes on into the northeast. So plenty of moisture. It's abundant here, coming from the jet off the Pacific. Also, we're getting a little bit of that streaming up from the south as well. This is our piece of energy, though, that is going to just be tumbling and rumbling across the U.S. through early next week. Now, this doesn't look very summertime, does it? I mean, this looks like some sort of springtime or wintertime summertime system. These white lines, the closer they are together, the breezier it is. So it's going to be a windy one with this as well. We're talking wide scale, what we call synoptic scale winds are going to be blowing through. So you're going to get that on top of these smaller thunderstorms that are going to cause the potential for damage. They could take out power, or they could cause some flooding. So watch everything start to kind of slowly move east as we head through our Saturday, and you're going to see specks of thunderstorms. Some of these, they might not look that powerful, but I'll tell you what, you have one of those big ones over your house, it is powerful. Sunday, it heads towards the Great Lakes, the Ohio River Valley. Monday, into the northeast, loses its oomph with severe weather, but it will still have some of those stronger winds. So watch this low deepening, as we call it, as it gets stronger, and you have a lot of energy to the south of that along the warm sector and along that front. And then everything, by we head into our Monday morning, this could slow down air travel for us from the Great Lakes on into the northeast, and it finally starts to lift out. Kelly, in its wake, we could see 2, even 3+ inches of rain.
And even more than that.
Welcome back to America's Morning Headquarters. It's Friday, August 4th. Dangerous flash flooding unfolding this morning. We have 2 emergencies, one in Kentucky and one in Tennessee. We also have warnings stretching from Missouri down towards Alabama, and I'm talking about flash flood warnings. We're getting new pictures out of Oneonta that are ongoing. There are trees that are down. There's a lot of damage happening here from Alabama up to Missouri. The tropics are relatively quiet right now, but this is the time of year we start to see things potentially ramp up. The Atlantic, nothing circled here. We have an invest and a Category 4 hurricane there in the East Pac. Let's start here in the Atlantic. We have a couple waves that are crossing the ocean, but they're intertwined with some dust, a little shear. Just neither of these look like they're really going to develop. You can see the train of waves that we have, and yes, they'll deliver some clouds and some showers to the islands here, but none of them are able to form into a really tightly wound low pressure. I know this one kind of sort of looks like it might, but it's not. That's just clouds and showers coming through places like the Bahamas. We do start to look out a little bit farther in the Atlantic for development come August. September is typically our most active month that we have. Look at the Atlantic season, still 90% of it left to go. We peak out right around September 10th. That's usually the peak of the hurricane season. But you could get storms into October, right, into November. Think of those later season storms. Sandy was an October storm. Wilma was an October storm. Some big late season storms. Colorado State University just released new predictions. Everything's still above average. And of course, we're well ahead of schedule. We've already gotten through the D name. Emily would be the next name storm if we had it develop in the Atlantic. How about Dora, though? We're on the D name storm here in the East Pac. Right now, Category 4 with winds at 130 miles an hour, and it is moving off to the west at 18 miles an hour. Another area, the potential for development for us here, 97E. There's an 80% chance that this will develop and head towards the Cabo San Lucas area over the next 7 days. And even if it doesn't develop, I would say be careful, because if you're going to Cabo, you could get some of those clouds and showers. Eugene is the next name on the list here for the Eastern Pacific. And if I didn't say it, I think I did, but Emily would be the next name storm in the Atlantic. Jordan, we have separate lists.
Yes, we do.
On what basin you're in.
Yes.